Well, last week we were at a venue that was new to modern Formula One, but today it is quite the opposite. We're back at one of the most familiar and recognizable places for drivers and fans around the world. Welcome along to the Spanish Grand Prix. It's round 5 in season 16 of the Wheel2wheel Racing AL2 Championship, and we're here just outside the beautiful Catalan capital of Barcelona, where we'll watch our drivers take on the ever-challenging Circuit de Barcelona Catalunya. It's a 2.89-mile circuit with 16 corners, 7 to the left and 9 to the right. There's 2 DRS zones and a wide variety of corners throughout this difficult circuit, which will test our drivers' precision and consistency throughout our 66-lap race today. The tires are the hardest in the Pirelli range, C1, C2, and the C3. Soft C3 tires just over half a second quicker than the mediums, and just over 1.1 seconds quicker than the hards. But those softs degrade very quickly here, so some decisions will have to be made regarding strategy here as we are underway in qualifying. We look forward to another exciting race here at Wheel2Wheel Racing.
Right, good evening all. I think it's going to be an interesting one round here this evening, especially, like you say, a circuit that we're very familiar with, one that in real life F1's been used for the pre-season testing for, well, God knows how many years now. Got the perfect balance of the long straights as well as the tight and twisty corners as well, so it'd be interesting after what we saw on Wednesday, how these boys can handle it.
Yeah, it's a track in real life doesn't always produce the best racing. It's not exactly a fan favorite, but I think the drivers enjoy driving it in real life, and in this game it is a very enjoyable track to drive. So we'll see how our boys get on here as James Laws is about to start the first flying lap. Oh, just kidding, he's pulling into the pits. So we will...
I believe the next car on track there is we've got Silver in the Haas car. Like you say, yeah, it's the simple layout for you, especially with the difference in elevations in all 3 of the sectors on some of these higher speed corners, can definitely unsettle the car. So these guys need to make sure they've got the right setups and they're ready to go and they've done their practice. So just going to ride on board here on Silver. He's going to be doing our first time lap of the evening. Nice exit out of the final corner. DRS is wide open as he's going to be coming down the longest part of the track for the first DRS into one of the probably the most opportune overtaking spot come the race, into the quick right of 1, and he's run a little bit wide across 2, and I believe he's just invalidated the lap time there.
Yeah, and we can see... Oh, and a Mercedes there blocking Sega to cause. Sat on the racing line round turn 3, and Sega to cause has to get out of the way for old Dads, who's coming through, and the Haas is sideways on the track.
I was just about to jump on board with old Dad's rule here, just trying to pick up the next car on track on a flying lap just to get one nice onboard all the way around. He did a good job to avoid the Haas. He definitely wouldn't have been expecting that car to be sideways there.
And old Dads has invalidated
in the middle sector as well. God, these guys don't want me doing a full lap of the commentary, do they, tonight? So... Got a Haas parked it in the gravel here. Silver hasn't made it much further by the looks of it. Still stuck on the outside of turn 4 even, sorry. Seems like he's just parked it up for the night. Alright, so I'm going to try this one again. We're going to jump on board with Dazzy James in the McLaren. See if he makes it a little bit further around this time without the invalidation as he just finishes sector 1. They're going purple. Got this long sweeping right for 4. You need to make sure, because the outside of the track does come up very quick, but he's done well to judge that and get onto the curb nice. Into the sweeping left, the tight left downhill of 5. And, okay, I missed Sega setting a lap completely. Apologies there. And then the typical 7 and 8, and they are going to catch a lot of drivers out. The track limits are going to punish these guys today. Two very contradicting times there as well between Sega and Apoplex. So clearly, yeah, Sega was definitely hindered on his lap. Apoplex, though, currently the man on pole with a 1:16.7, closely followed by Blood and Sand as well with a 17.4. So just waiting for a couple more of these guys to put their laps on the board there, with the letdown estate comes through with an 18.2 on his mediums for the Red Bull team. Looks like James has bailed in off his lap. I'm just going to jump back on board there with Silver. Silver's still on his first lap, with currently packing in a nice 2.5 minute lap time so far. Though he's very cautiously coming into the pits. Just behind him we've got CHM. I think this could be his second lap as he comes back round again. I think he had issues on the first. Coming down here, let's see what the Mercedes can do. Can he join his teammate on the front row of the grid? And he puts it in fourth with a 19.2.
Then Old Dad's putting it on provisional pole for the Ferrari team, a 16.3. That's on his second lap as well, so that is a very impressive time from the Ferrari man. And he has to bail out of the way, and I think that was Sega Takaz coming through once again, having trouble with some traffic.
And again, that's another invalidated lap as well for Sega, so a few of these guys are getting a bit generous when trying to carry their speed through some of these quicker corners.
And now we have last week's race winner, Woody Wolfie, putting it into P5. And that is on a set of mediums. So we'll see if he sticks with that or elects to go for the softs at some point in this session.
Just to double check there, looks like Blood and Sand has retired, but in the pit lane, so it wasn't an accident out on track. He's done his one lap and he's just going to sit with it.
Yeah, I think he's opted for the strategy of starting on the mediums. No point in wearing those tires down any more than he already has with that one lap. If he's satisfied with the time, then not much for him to do for the rest of this qualifying session. So retirement in the pits.
You can enjoy the sun, I think, do a bit of an Alonso and just kick back in the deck chair, can't he? So we've got his CHM's gone for another attempt of a lap time. Very different timing there, nearly 10 seconds off, so clearly he's had a bit of a moment again there. Interesting that he has stayed out for another attempt.
Yeah, and the more you wear down your tires doing multiple laps on the same set, the worse off you're going to be at the beginning of the race. So it's interesting to see CHM still going around on this same set of tires. We may see him try and make another run on the softs, but if these are the tires that he's going to be starting on for the beginning of the race, they're going to be a little bit more worn than some of his rivals.
Right, well, the man that, we really would say would be odds on to put it on pole with the track record he's had so far this season, has just started his flying lap on a set of mediums as well. Come the race, the mediums can easily do a one-stop onto the hards, and unsurprisingly a purple Sector 1 as well for the McLaren of Cal.
It looks to be a good lap so far, coming into the tricky bit of turn 7 and 8 up the hill to turn 9, which can be just about flat out with the right setup and the right level of confidence. It is up a line corner, very difficult to get the line right, but Cal does well. Now into the third sector, really tight and twisty, a blind uphill right-hander. It's hard to tell when you can get the power down. Then the last three corners are so tight. You got to be so precise through here, stay off the curbs, and then use that exit curb on the left to get the power down as fast as possible. And he is across the line, puts it into P2 on a set of mediums, a very impressive lap time, less than a tenth behind Old Dad's rule.
Oh, and the guy just behind him on track here, the God King himself, is just starting his first flying lap again on the mediums. So a lot of these guys, well, the quicker guys, opting to go for this, probably the one stop in that sense. But he's gone a little bit wide coming up through 2. And it looks like he has bailed out the lap already just to try and save those tyres, like you say.
That corner, turn 2, that left-hand side curb can be so difficult to manage if you catch too much of it. It just wants to spin the car unless you got the right setup. But we've seen many of our drivers Wednesday and over the past few years get caught out by that curb and go into that wall on that left-hand side. So,
well, once again, just jumped back on board to see what Silver's doing here. He's lost his front wing by the looks of it on that tricky 7 at the turn 7 and 8 there. Looks like he's doing a bit more rallycross than F1 today, but hopefully he's got plenty of time to get around again and get a lap in as well.
Yeah, hopefully he can get back into the pits, get ready for another run, as we have the other McLaren of Daisy, aka Strident, aka James, coming in, up the hill towards turn 4, and he's invalidated. Not a place you often see invalidations, as turn 3 is completely flat, so I think just maybe a little lapse in concentration there as he went just off the track. That was enough to invalidate it.
Just cut back to the Rebel again of the God King, who's had a bit of a lock-up into turn 1 this time, but he's kept the car level through 2 into 3. So he hasn't made the same mistake this time. He does have a racing point a little bit up the track in front of him. So if we can catch him at the right point, he might get a cheeky bit of a toe in through the fast right-hander of 4. And it's looking fairly tidy from the God King so far. We can see what he can do. We did have a reserve on Wednesday as well, and he's definitely had some time on the track, so we could have a promising race from him this evening. And in through the important middle sector here, has he invalidated the lap? No, he's kept it clean, foot still down on the throttle. As he just comes down onto the back straight, DRS wide open, still going strong. The racing point is still clear, so you may be fine. Doesn't look like he's gone too wide out onto the curb there. He's, again, don't want to unsettle the car with the traction and just want to be wary of the inside curb as you come up through the right-hander. He's kept it right, using as much of the outside as he can to sweep in through to the final part of the track here, and then the very tricky chicane, like you say. And he's not taken too much of the curb at all. He's run out wide as quick as he can to try and get the most of his drive as he comes onto the back straight. DRS is wide open with low fuel, and where's this put him across the line? P4 with a 1:16.9. So only 0.6 between him and Cow. I say only, that was more than I was expecting, to be completely honest.
Yeah, so a very competitive lap time on the mediums for Xerxes. And we have Woody Wolfie, looks like he's on an in lap. And we have his teammate, James Laws, on a set of mediums, yet to set a lap time. So he will be going for it here as he comes up the hill into turn 4. So far,
definitely
so
shows
good.
well the fact that a lot of these guys have gone for the mediums. I've just seen here on the weather report that we are expecting a completely dry quali and race, so no worry about really having to feel that you have to throw the softs on, but clearly missed that lap there. James in the McLaren, while we're watching one James, the other one's come across the line and put it into P3 with a 1:16.4. Nearly matching his teammate on a different set of tyres, but that'll be good for the McLarens to be as hard as they can be.
Yeah, they are the constructors leaders as of now in AL2, and they're showing why. They're great pace from both drivers. Right now sat second and third.
Just cutting back to the other James as well as he comes around the final corner. Again, he's run out of battery a little bit early there, but he comes across and puts the racing point in P6 on the set of mediums, just behind Xerxes, only 0.2 separating the two drivers.
Solid lap there from the Racing Point driver. Very competitive lap time. And now we have Haas of Silva Slugger starting his latest run. And we'll see how he gets on. I've seen him struggle a couple of times so far in this qualifying session, but this looks good so far as he's coming up the hill in turn 3. Very tidy first sector, goes a bit wide in turn 4, but that's fine, won't lose him too much time. And he has opted for the medium tire as well, which the majority of our drivers have gone for. And it's no surprise, as I said, the softs just degrade so quickly around here. The medium's likely the better race tire to start on. So we see the Haas come barreling into the final sector, keeping it nice and tidy, letting the car run wide a little bit and getting the power down nicely into the tricky final 3 corners here. and he uses all of the curbs there, but he makes it work one way or another. Where's that gonna put him? It is just a little bit behind CHM, but moves him up into 12th.
No, but the first is a valid lap. It's on the board. He now knows that he can work on this. He's got enough time to get around and probably get one more lap in. If he makes this lap now a bit of a pacey one, he can't dawdle too much, but he can definitely get another chance in if he wants to.
Yeah, and we've got both the Ferraris now on flying laps. First is Old Dad's, who gets a little loose coming through turn 3. Not often you see the car let go through there. It's, especially in qualifying, usually easily flat, but the Ferrari just not having the grip that Old Dad's would have wanted through there.
I don't know, it could have been a tactical slow up there, because Prev behind him, who hasn't set a lap, is on his flying lap, so maybe he's trying to give his teammate a tow.
Yeah, we'll see if Old Dad's continues to push on this lap, but Prev coming up the hill, turn 9, DRS open now, coming towards the final sector. His teammate on pole as of now, but Prev, as you say, yet to set a lap, so this is a big moment for him. He's got to get this right through these final 3 corners here.
Got the softs on as well, so he does have that with him to get his car for the position up on the grid. Gonna see, yeah, it's been a relatively neat lap, and he's kept his ERS as well. He's saved a bit for the lap as well, and it puts him down into 10th. Well, I'd say up into 10th to be fair, on a 17.8. Just behind, well, yeah, Woody as well from last week's winner. So can't have been that bad if he's only that 2 tenths behind him.
Yeah, a very tidy lap from Prev. I think he maybe was a little bit cautious, especially in that final sector riding on board with him. He kept it well off the curbs, kept it middle of the racetrack, just made sure he got a valid time in. He is sat 10th at the moment. So I think we have James, the latest man, to start a flying lap in the McLaren. We'll see if he can improve. Sat just behind his teammate. He'll be wanting to put himself on the front row, a purple sector 1. There wasn't much in it between the top 3. Only a 10th to make up would put James on pole.
Yeah, and the man just behind him on track as well, Woody. He's out on another lap on a set of softs, so these times are going to come in now quick and fast as we come round to the final part of the session. Anyone who wants to set a lap needs to be out now. And it looks like a majority of them are going to be our soft runners, with a purple middle sector as well for James.
Yeah, James's teammate Cal just starting his final lap. Just a few seconds left to go in the session. It looks like only these 3 will be setting new times. Everybody else still in the pits. So now it is...
Battery deployment a little bit early there. Sorry.
Is James coming across the line? Where's it gonna put him? He's put it on pole! What a lap from James in the McLaren.
He's realised he's had no battery and he's still gone, stuff it, I'm still going to put it in first. So next coming across the line here, there's only 2 more people that can knock him off the top step. Last week's winner, Woody, is he's going to come down across the line for Racing Point, and he's going to put it up into P6 with a 17.1, just edging out his teammate by less than 100th of a second. And, well, the only guy out on track that can really do it. Could we see a McLaren front row?
Ooh, it's a purple sector 2 for Cal as he looks to best his teammate here with the last lap in this qualifying session. Just 4 corners to go here, and the trickiest corners on the circuit. Can he navigate them and keep the traction? He does well through there, coming through turn 16. DRS open, where's that gonna put him? Cal beats his teammate and puts it on pole. What a lap from Cal, 1:15.5.
Nearly a second up on the rest of the field. What a lap.
Yeah, it all came together for Cal on his final flying lap of the session. What an impressive time that is. And he will start at the front of the pack in just a few moments' time when we go racing.
Just Just checking the tyres here as well, that all these laps have been set on. Yeah, the front four all opted for the softs. And Xerxes sitting there in fifth on his mediums, so that is the difference between a one or a two-stop strategy. Safety cars can happen around here. We did see a couple on Wednesday. They can be quite common, but we've seen these guys have been pretty clean racing before, so this could go either way come the strategies on the race.
Yeah, we know Xerxes has the pace to be up into the podium positions, obviously setting his lap on the slower tire, but it will be interesting to see how he copes in that first stint being on the slower tire. See how long he can make those mediums last, and if that will give him an advantage later in the Grand Prix. So, a lot of questions to be answered, an exciting qualifying session, and we look to be having an exciting race on our hands.
Already seen as well, just in the driver's side of things, a bit of communication. Talk of possible blocking as well may have happened during that session. So, be interesting to see when that does go to the stewards. You know, these drivers do post their footage of any concern of what happens, and it does get reviewed. So, anything that does happen, they'll be making the decisions come that. Alright, so just a quick overview of what we have here. So, like we said, it's a McLaren 1-2 with Cal leading James, a 1:15.3 for the pole sitter, down to a 1:16.3, closely followed by Old Dads, Apoplex, Xerxes rounding up the top 5, Woody, James, Sega, Blood and Sand and Prev rounding up the top 10, and then we have a letdown estate, CHM, Silver Slugger, and then Maxi in the Renault, who did not set a time bringing up the rear. Now, it's normally at this point here where we do have Bloom does one of his lovely spiels about the championship and the constructors, which is something I'm really hoping you have to hand, Matty. As the professional commentator I am, I do not have that to hand.
Well, we can take a look at our drivers' standings. It is very tight in the midfield. Really, one race can drop you a few places with a poor result, or gain you a few places with a good result here. But one man who has yet to have really anything but great results is Cal. He's our championship leader at the moment in the McLaren. He's had 3 wins, finished second last week in the Netherlands, but starts on pole today, so he's looking good to get back to winning ways this week. Then we have Prev and Old Dad's Rule in the Ferraris, followed by James in the other McLaren. And then we have Xerxes, the God King, in the Red Bull, who's recovered well after that first race with the DNF in Australia. He's gotten 2 podiums in the last 2 races coming into today. Then we've got Maxi in the Renault, followed by CHM, a letdown estate, and then Woody Wolfie coming into the league, missing the first couple of races but done well in China, and then in last week getting that win round Zandvoort. Very impressive from him. He'll be looking to build off that today. And then we've got Sega Takaz in 10th, Blood and Sand, and Silva Slugger in the Haas team, 11th and 12th. And then Appleplex 13th, and James Laws 14th. But as I said, that can all change drastically with any given race, as it is very tight in that midfield, so we will see how those standings get jumbled up after this race today. And then look at the constructors. We've got McLaren out in front, followed by Ferrari in second, then Red Bull in third, Renault in fourth, Mercedes fifth, Racing Point sixth, Haas seventh, and then Williams in eighth, and nobody yet to race for AlphaTauri or Alfa Romeo so far this season, so no points for either of those teams.
All that says to me there is that we have 4 available seats if anyone is interested in joining. We've got 4 spots on the grid here that you definitely enjoy your time racing these guys.
It is a very fun league, and one of the things that made it a little bit more fun this season is the combined Wheel2Wheel Championship, where the constructors' totals from AL1 and AL2 are combined for the overall Wheel2Wheel Racing Championship. And these standings have Racing Point out in front with... Oh, excuse me. That is AL1 with Racing Point out in front, but they are actually 6th in the combined standings. It is actually Red Bull out in front in the combined championship, followed by McLaren, then Williams in 3rd, then Ferrari in 4th, Renault 5th, Racing Point 6th, AlphaTauri in 7th, but surely they'll make their way much higher than they are now. 2 great drivers in AL1, if you haven't gotten the chance to watch them. And then Mercedes in 8th, Haas 9th, and Alfa Romeo in 10th.
I mean, it's funny you mentioned the driver lineups. I think Red Bull definitely a strong team this season for AL1 and AL2. If we're going to say those things, but
yeah,
no,
I think
it does make it more fun. It makes every position worth it, no matter where you are. Different teams are doing better in different leagues, so it definitely does balance out. I think the thing to watch out for here is, as we saw in Zandvoort as well, these guys are so close in the midfield, and once they are battling, I don't think it matters who they are racing on track for position, they will race them, even if the strategies differ. So if anyone at the front does get caught up with an early pit stop, they're not going to have an easy time getting their way back through. With Xerxes sat there in 5th on the mediums, McLaren lock out the front row on the softs, any safety car could just blow this race wide open. And of course, just because he's not here tonight to say it, would cause pure pandemonium.
So it looks like we're just about to get underway here in Barcelona. So we are ready for round 5 here in the Season 16 Wheel2Wheel Racing AL2 Championship. The 2 McLarens put it on the front row in qualifying. Very impressive showing from them. They'll be looking to extend their lead in the constructors' standings. And a couple different strategies to look out for as we see the top 4 drivers starting on the softs, followed by Xerxes in the Red Bull starting on mediums, then Woody on the softs, then the 3 behind him on the mediums, Prev in the Ferrari on the softs, and more medium runners all the way down to 14th.
Yeah, I think anyone outside the top 10, we're going to be looking for the mediums. Like I said, it's the one-stop strategy around here. Couple drivers that we could see come through the field on the medium tyres that aren't at the front. The likes of Blood and Sand, we've seen him very good results over the last couple races. Started near the back on several and ended up in the top 5. A letdown estate as well. He's been a bit unlucky in the first couple rounds, but we know he's consistent and he can make those tyres last as well. I'm looking forward to seeing the likes of Woody and Xerxes bringing it back through, especially with James as well, the other Racing Point member.
Yeah, I think another one to watch out for will be Sega Takaz in the Williams. Probably, given the end of last season, would have been one of the championship favorites with the form he was in those last few weeks, but hasn't really gotten going so far this season the way he would have wanted. He's got work to do from 8th here today.
Looks like a slight issue there for CHM on the formation lap, so unfortunately that Mercedes is going to have some cold tyres to start off with, especially with the mediums, but he's not out yet. It's a long way to go and those tyres will get back up to scratch for him.
So then, 14 drivers on the grid. Formation lap is completed. We're all locked in and ready to go here in Barcelona. 2 McLarens on the front row. Will they stay there? 5 lights are on and maybe a couple of jump starts. And boogity, 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 let's go racing Spanish style, boys. The 2 McLarens lead down into turn 1, the racing point of Woody with a flying start, nearly got up into second there down the inside, but he's gotten up into third.
No, a lot of wheel-to-wheel action, pardon the pun, coming through the first 2 corners in the midfield. There's Xerxes making, well, losing a couple positions and making a couple straight back going through the first corners. And like you mentioned, yeah, a couple jump starts may have been triggered just by one person, unfortunately. Everyone does react to what goes on around them. So it's going to be close here as we're just following these guys. You've got Woody all over the back of old, beg your pardon even, all over the back of the McLaren of James, and then old Dad's right on the back of him as well. Cal getting jumped by his teammate, which I didn't realise off the start. So that's going to be a bit of a controversial one as he sends it down the inside with the Ferrari with old Dad's. He goes up and he gets the position, moving the Ferrari up into third. But you know that racing point isn't going to let him go just yet. He's going to come straight back at him at the next chance he gets.
So really good move from old Dads. Didn't get the best start, but he's able to make back a position, and he'll be wanting to put pressure on those McLaren boys out in front. And we can just quickly confirm from race control, James Laws with a drive-through penalty, as well as I believe it was Appleplex, who both jumped the start, got drive-through penalties. So unfortunate start to the race for them, but now we've got the McLaren boys.
Looks like Prev's been hit with a double whammy there as well, unfortunately. He's gone into the pits to serve something or a drive-through, and he's ended up with a 5-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane. So unless that was a prior penalty or he had some lap 1 damage, it's not going to be good.
Then we have Sega Takal's right on the back of CHM through this middle sector. So we see
just about to say, right behind them as well, you've got Maxi, who didn't actually set a lap in qualifying in the Renault, but he's just behind that little battle.
Yeah, he's done well to make up a few positions here in the opening laps. So we see the Williams of Sega Takal continue to put pressure on the Mercedes in front. No DRS yet. This is the end of lap 2, beginning of lap 3, so next time around DRS will be active.
And I just need to double check that I'm seeing this right here, but Cal is sat there in P2, nearly a second behind his teammate, who's just gone ahead and set the fastest lap of the race. I know it's only lap 3, but I was not expecting this.
Great start from James out in front. And I think it's up to old Dads here to disrupt any sort of team strategy that those McLaren boys might have in mind. So hopefully he can push them and provide some entertainment for us at the same time, as James pushing really hard to get that gap out in front, but has got himself a 3-second penalty already.
It's very easy with these quick, fast-flowing corners, especially where the curbs are pretty much flat as well, so you try to run as much as you can to carry the speed, and you can get penalised for it very quickly here. As by doing that, it looks like Cal's benefited greatly, with old Dad just behind. All 3 of these guys are going to be in their own little DRS train here, 1, 2 and 3, as they come onto the start finish straight for the first time with DRS. What is Cal going to be able to do with his teammate? Is he going to try and get past him? Or is he just going to sit behind a couple more laps and just see if he can burn his tyres up?
Yeah, just a little dab of the overtake button, but it doesn't look like Cal's pushing too hard to get past his teammate. Old Dad's slowly closing in. Getting closer and closer behind the McLaren boys.
Just making a move on CHM down the straight, so already the DRS coming into effect, making the positions change. And then after that, CHM got a bit of a weird driver, unfortunately, coming through too, and it's put Maxi and a letdown estate just coming up behind him now. And I've missed that at some point, but I think we have lost a driver as well in silver. Don't know if you caught what happened there.
Yeah, I think she just reacted to the people in front of him that jumped the start, and then just instinctively tried to stop and may have reversed on the grid. I think that was what race control said, and that is a disqualification, unfortunately. So really unlucky for the Haas driver, but we go again next week. We look forward to seeing him back then. But now we have a battle of McLarens out in front.
Surely if one has more pace than the other, which I hate to say just due to what's going on so far, it doesn't matter though. He's going to send it down the inside anyway on his teammate into turn one. Nice move from Cal on his teammate there, and James. I was wondering if these guys were going to squabble or if they were going to try and settle things. It doesn't look like he made it easy for him, but old Dad's just sitting just behind. They're not going to want to compromise this too much.
Now the God King trying to put pressure on last week's race winner, Woody Wolfie. He's getting very close to the back of that racing point on the slower tire, but he looks to be having good pace here, keeping up with the soft runners.
We did see the softs do a roundabout, but the window was between about 10 to 16 laps, depending on how many laps you've done in quali. So they are going to be getting on now, nearly halfway through the stint, especially if they've done a couple laps during the qualifying session on their runs. I'm enjoying this little train forming as I'm just going to jump back to the leading two McLarens. Is James going to retaliate on his teammate here? Is he going to want to get back in front? It looks like he's going to go for it. Overtake is nearly completely gone by lap 6, but he sent it up the inside of his teammate. Not much of a fight there, but to be honest, I don't think you would expect much this early on in the Grand Prix.
Yeah, they're being a bit more responsible than Mercedes were. Last time we saw couple of Mercedes going at it through this part of the track. They both ended up in the gravel, but the McLaren boys keeping it clean.
Because a Red Bull ended up winning, so
the McLaren boys keeping it clean so far out in front. Xerxes still putting pressure on Woody Wolfie.
Middle sector, he closes right up to the back of the racing point with the dirty air, and he just no way to get around him. He's just got to lift back off again and compose for another attempt and through one of these DRS zones possibly.
It is very difficult to overtake through this DRS zone they're at now. Down into turn 10, it's such a short straight. It's hard to get a good run out of turn 9 dealing with the dirty air, so not a great overtaking opportunity, but he's sticking behind the racing point through this third sector, and then maybe he can make use of the best overtaking opportunity down the main straight into turn 1.
Well, our little McLaren duo up front that have been playing there, doing their little dance for first place, has actually got old Dad's now joining them, who's now just got into the DRS zone. So this two little dances turning into a nice little three-way, pardon the pun.
And Xerxes closing in on Woody Wolfie, but not able to get alongside into the braking zone. And is that Maxi and a letdown estate going side by side through turn 1 and 2, and a letdown estate is able to get ahead of the Renault.
One Red Bull didn't have the speed down the straight, the other one's just gone ahead and done it. Next up the road for a letdown estate, that we do have CHM.
And Xerxes trying his luck into turn 5, but Woody Wolfie staying calm and composed and holding position. DRS can be so powerful around here, as we see a lot of drivers in little DRS trains up and down the pack. It's a high downforce circuit, so you want to have your rear wing set for that high downforce, which then makes having DRS an even bigger advantage than normal, having that rear wing wide open. As we see the top 3 and then 4 and 5 all getting
might
DRS.
Be close enough for a move on Woody. Sorry to cut you off there, but he's close enough. He's gone down the outside and he's made it before turn 1. Xerxes up into P4 on the mediums.
Great move from the God King. The fans will be loving that one. And further back, we've got a letdown of State, who may have just missed his braking point and is off wide at turn 1. He looked like he might have been having a go at CHM, but it's hard to tell. Is that one of the McLarens?
Between the McLarens. That was in sync. And I'm not talking about the bad boy band either. But yeah, so it looks like Cal coming out on top there. I didn't see them swap positions, so I would have believed that James would have been in front.
I think
maybe he lost it on his own.
They both lost out though, because Old Dads has taken the lead. And that is Xerxes up into 3rd, and James has dropped all the way back to 7th.
Just about to say they're just losing out to Sega as well. Just checking the McLaren there, I don't see any front end damage from the camera angles that we can get. Just double checking his front end plates, and beg your pardon, no, he's losing the front. He's lost the front left end plate on his car, so there must have been a bit of contact there, or if he has gone off, hit the gravel. But he's diving straight into the pits. This is an early stop on the softs, but still easily can do a 2-stop strategy.
Yeah, really unfortunate for James there. He got off to a rapid start. Was able to keep the pace with his teammate, and they were pulling away at one point, but maybe just pushing a bit too hard. Unfortunate we weren't able to catch what exactly happened, but we hope that he can recover.
Too much stuff going on.
Yeah.
There's too much stuff going on for us if we've only got 2 cameras.
Now
CHM all over the back of Maxi as well. A letdown of State's catching back up, so I missed Maxi getting past the Mercedes, but this little trio, they seem to be attached at the hip at the moment, all following each other around, similar time splits lap after lap.
So Cal staying within DRS range of the Ferrari out in front. So we'll see if he has a go down the main straight. He's got a full bank of overtake to work with. So we come on.
Be interesting to see if he fights harder than he did with his teammate as well. Does he go for the move as it's not his teammate and just get that track position?
I think he's not pushing too hard. He opts to stay behind as Woody Wolfie comes in for an early pit stop. And I think this is the point where those soft runners will start coming in.
And just a quick mention there as well. Blood and Sand up to 4th now. Started down in P9. So again, like I mentioned, he normally starts nearer the back, but he just somehow ends up finding himself in prime position. I understand cars have pit around him, but still, a brilliant start from him so far.
And then battles still to be settled up and down the grid. We've got Cal sticking with Old Dads in the lead. We've got a letdown of State right on the back of CHM, and then Appleplex just behind James Laws.
Questionably as well, CHM didn't open his DRS on Maxi, so unless he was just outside the bracket as they hit the detection zone, it looked like he was well within the second gap, even with the telemetry going up there.
It doesn't look like he'll get it this time around either as they come onto the main straight. Letdown of State not getting the best exit out of the final 2 corners. But he's got
how quick that Mercedes can be in a straight line as well. He normally runs the low downforce.
Yeah, he is catching the Mercedes, a letdown of State, but not in time as they come into turn 1. CHM holds position for the time being.
And just to touch, you said about the soft tyres going off here, the gap between Xerxes and the top 2 was 1.8 about a lap or 2 ago. He's now within 7 tenths nearly of the leading duo. So those mediums definitely coming alive here, and he's making every bit count. Straight within the DRS zone. You must be thinking the Cow and Old Dads are going to be stopping soon. Along with Appleplex as well.
I think they've got to pit this lap, or else they'll be losing time on track battling with Xerxes, and that'd be a losing battle to fight as well, because they'd be on much more worn tires.
I personally think they've actually left it a lap too late, to be completely honest. If
and
Cow or
neither come in
out as well. I thought for sure someone would have gone now just to cover off the other driver out of Cal and Old Dads.
Oh, and here comes the God King on the McLaren. He's going to have to go the long way around through turn 1. He tries the switchback. Can he switch back on Cal again through turn 2? No, he can't. Cal gets a great drive through turn 3 and keeps hold of second place.
Yeah, Cal, with all the battery deployments saved up, he's just using it when he needs to. He's got a bit of a wobble there, the God King himself, but he's still with them. He hasn't dropped that much time. Those soft tyres must not feel good at all on the Ferrari or the McLaren. That Red Bull is climbing all over the back of them. The only benefit I can see with these two guys staying out right now is they're hindering Xerxes' race, just so he doesn't keep up his pace while the tyres are in their prime.
Yeah, I think if Xerxes would have been able to make the move on Cal into turn 1, then he would have been much better off in terms of keeping his strategy going the way he wants it to. But being held up by these old soft runners is not what he would have wanted.
Saying held up there, Appleplex is actually on the back of James in the racing point as well as they come down the back straight. I'm just going to jump to the front.
And a mistake there. Here. A mistake there from Xerxes on the final chicane, going a bit wide and getting into the gravel. Old Dads came in for his pit stop, so Cal retakes the lead.
That must have been a bit of a mistake. I've only just noticed the difference between the two.
Yeah, a little bit. The loose back end. And just a couple seconds lost there in the blink of an eye for Xerxes.
Side by side, sorry to cut you off there, with Woody and Old Dads on the exit, but Woody has actually made the jump on the Ferrari, pitting 2 laps prior. Like you say, the undercut is strong around here, especially once the tyres go off the edge, hit the cliff or whatever the terminology is. And Woody has timed that to perfection. The Ferrari split the 2 racing points, but again, track position is important here.
Yeah, and we've seen the pace of Old Dads in this race. We saw the pace of Woody Wolfie last week, but he hasn't quite been able to replicate that impressive form so far today. So we'll see if he can defend this position from the Ferrari on fresh mediums.
I think it's going to be another lap, I think, for Old Dads. He has to warm those tyres up a little bit more. We know those mediums don't come out at the best grip, especially on your outlap. You do have to be a bit careful. But we now see Cal diving into the pits. That's surely to cover off the battle of Woody and Old Dads. Are they going to jump him? That 1 lap difference.
Yeah, we'll continue riding on board with Old Dads here as he's got DRS on the racing point in front. And I have to think he's going to...
now. I'm sorry.
Oh, and Cal might have gotten the overcut on the Ferrari. They're going to be side by side into turn 1. And Cal has jumped Old Dads after the pit stops.
Now, this is brilliant. We're only 14 laps in, and the difference in the strategy is already mixing things up.
Oh, and now is Cal going to try something into turn 5? Now he's just a bit too far back. You can see, though, he just has a little bit more confidence in the car than Woody Wolfie in front. He's got plenty of overtake to work with when he wants to make that move.
Woody knows Cal can be beaten, as we saw last week, so he's not going to give that McLaren an inch of space. And all of this looks like it was helping out Old Dad, so maybe it was just a camera angle, but I was expecting to see a Ferrari send it up the inside there into turn 10.
And not much to split these 3 cars. So we see a letdown estate and CHM still battling away in 5th and 6th.
All 3 of them are catching that duo.
Yeah.
Very quick.
Now Old Dad's with a great exit out of the final corner. He's right on the back of the McLaren. And a letdown of State and CHM going side by side. A letdown of State makes it stick.
And so is Old Dad. I think Old Dad and Cal are running side by side, but he's managed to squeeze it through as well. God, can these guys make one overtake on the track at a time? But it looks like Cal's coming back at him up the inside into 4 even, sorry. And he just not as late on the brakes. Where Old Dad was on the outside, he could just run and roll the car in a little bit further. Just keep that track position.
Great action here in the middle of the pack as we see our front runners having made those pit stops, battling it out on their fresh tires.
And like I said during the break as well after qualifying, these front runners that started on the softs, they've had to pit early, they've now come out in the midfield. And it's so close in the midfield that these guys are going to be battling. They're not going to want to let anyone go.
I think we might see a move here from James in the McLaren. He's got DRS. He was right behind the racing point. He goes for a dive into turn 10. Down the inside, they're still side by side. Really tricky part of the track to go side by side through. And in the end, James just has to let off and concede the position. And
about that, the other racing point of Woody Wolf is just already over the back of CHM, and he's making the move. He's going to want to put that Mercedes between him and the Ferrari of Old Dad's as soon as possible. And it looks like he's done it, but Old Dad's with a late dive. And what a move. As that is going to be important as well, just to separate themselves from Cal. So all 3 of these guys are going to want to try and separate them. Just get that gap, and a letdown of State built up a little bit of a gap there. As soon as he passed CHM, and Cal wasting no time at all to run side by side with CHM round turn 4. He's going to be up on the outside there, but they've left just enough space, and Cal's gone a bit wide. Nearly sending it onto the gravel, had to lift off a bit there.
This is brilliant racing from our wheel-to-wheel boys. Old Dad's with a sensational move down the inside at turn 1. Cal fighting to get past the Mercedes to try and keep up with his rivals in this race, but still not able to make that move.
1.7 seconds lost behind the Mercedes. 1.8 now the gap between him and Old Dad's, and he's made the move finally into turn 10. We know he's going to have the peso to catch back up, especially with the likes of Old Dad's and Woody, who are battling behind a letdown Estate, who's still out. He's going to be going a little bit longer on these mediums.
Yeah, and I think Cal's going to be losing out not being in this DRS train as he would have been had CHM not been there to separate him and Old Dad's. And Woody Wolfie,
last lap.
Woody Wolfie flying by, and that's a late move to block from a letdown Estate, but he just about leaves enough space for the Ferrari to squeeze by. And once again, Old Dad's follows the racing point through and stays right on his gearbox through the first couple of corners.
And now it doesn't seem like much, but Old Dad's is on 3-lap fresher tyres than Woody, and that is actually going to make such a difference in the latter part of their stint. But I was going to say, I was expecting a bit of deja vu from the last lap, but they both cleared him halfway down the straight, so...
Yeah, I think a letdown Estate not fighting it too hard, just showed a little bit of a half-hearted block to Old Dad's, just to keep him honest, but
that's not what Cal would have wanted to see, though.
It's not a letdown Estate's fight with these two drivers, so he's a veteran.
He knows too much.
Yeah, he knows when to pick his fights.
Yeah, just keeping an eye on the gap here with Cal and the back of Old Dad's. The gap is coming down roughly, not by much though. Cal's just within a second of a letdown Estate, who's nearly a second behind Old Dad's.
Yeah, and I think this might be, not a good exit from Old Dad's out of the last couple corners. I was gonna say this might be the opportunity he's been waiting for to get past Woody Wolfie, as now Woody Wolfie for the first time in some laps doesn't have DRS, but he's just a bit too far back. Old Dad's just goes a little bit deep into turn 1.
And it's interesting to note though as well that a letdown Estate is staying within that 1 second of this battling duo, so even though the fight's not with them at the moment, he's using these quicker guys to tow him along.
Yeah.
Which again is just going to hinder Cal so much.
Yeah, it can be so difficult to pass a car that has DRS on the car in front of them. It'd be difficult to get a good run down the main straight, but a letdown Estate now just falling over that 1 second mark back from Old Dad's, so Cal will have an advantage here Let down a state, not in DRS range.
I thought Cal would have gone for it then into turn 10. He knows he's losing time here. Surely he just wants to get the move done. But we have a yellow in Sector 2 very early on.
That is Appleplex.
Unfortunate. No damage to the car, though. I think he may have just lost it coming out of 4, touching the gravel on the outside. So again, the car can slide off, and if you touch the gravel like we saw Cal nearly had, it can send you off. But he's kept the Mercedes in one piece. Just got to get back on with it now.
And here comes Old Dad's past the racing point. And here comes Cal down the inside of the Red Bull of a letdown of state. And he just about makes it stick through turn 2. Now through turn 3, Cal is up into 7th.
I mean, to be fair, letdown of state really tried hanging it around the outside into turn 1 even, sorry. He really tried to keep that position, but when there's 14 laps difference on the tyres, you're not going to win that fight.
Yeah, we know the pace that Cal has, and he's still trying to claw back the time lost. If you remember, he was right with Old Dad's before those pit stops, so be interesting to see how this time lost will affect him later in the race. And now,
just sorry to say that I was running on board with James in the McLaren. He looked like he was going to get a run on CHM, and he just put a wheel into the gravel, which completely halted the process.
He's lucky to keep that car on the track. Going wide there can be absolutely deadly to these cars. It can send you any which way. So he's done well to save that. He might be having a move here. He's gotten a good exit. And
Old Dad's Woody getting very close, but Woody's shown his pace so far. Sorry, Old Dad's even, beg your pardon, has shown his pace now, but leading this little pack.
Oh, and I say CHM not having DRS, but still fighting the McLaren all the way down the straight and into turn 1, but James able to get the move done on the inside.
And while there is a second just to look at something else besides these battles, I just want to point out here the gap at the front from Xerxes up to 7.3 seconds.
Yeah,
he is just pulling away from the guys behind on the similar strategy, the likes of Blood, Sega and Maxi. So this is going to be good if he's going for this one-stop strategy. He's making the most of it while he's out front.
Now Old Dad's continuing to plug away, put those lap times in, as now he has caught yet another car that started on the mediums on old tires, and he's gonna have DRS on the Renault of Maxi. The huge tire advantage here. Renault having much more worn tires. We will see if Old Dad's can make a move. He is pretty far back as they come onto the main straight, but he's closing quickly, using all the overtake he can, switches to the inside, and Old Dad's looks to be through on the inside, and he is. Great move from Old Dad's, up into 4th.
No, that is a very important move as well, because the likes of Woody wasn't close enough to actually follow him through, and if he does catch him mid-lap here, it's going to be hard to get past him. And all this is doing is helping Cal catch that racing point.
Yeah, but it's also that move important to help Old Dad's pull even further away from Cal, which was his main rival earlier in this race, but he's starting to get that bit of a buffer.
And he's got a nice bit of open track as well now, before any other traffic in that respect. But now the gap out in front as well, up to 8.3 now for Xerxes, so he's pulling nearly a second a lap on the Haas of Blood and Sand.
Yeah, Xerxes just needs to continue to plug away, be consistent with these lap times, not push the tires too hard as he wants to make this stint last as long as he can. Going for a one-stop strategy. His consistency and tire management will be key for him. He's got clear track out in front, just needs to keep his head down and keep plugging away. But now, Woody Wolfie making a move on the Renault. He looks to be clear with plenty of time before turn 1. Cal not able to follow him through though, so yet another driver wedging themselves in between this three-way battle between Old Dad's, Woody Wolfie, and Cal.
And importantly as well, Woody's used a lot of his battery deployment, but he's doing it because he's still within that 1 second of old Dad's. He wants to make sure he doesn't fall out of that DRS zone. He's trying everything by the looks of it here to stay where he is. I'm looking forward to these front 3 drivers that are still on their mediums doing their stops, because when they come out, they're going to be on the fresher rubber. But when everything balances out, I think this 3-way battle could turn into maybe a 4 or 5 car battle.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see how the strategies play out between the 1 and the 2 stop, but Cal trying to clear the Renault of Maxi into turn 10, and he sends it round the outside, but he goes a little bit wide, and now Maxi's fighting back. And
round
Maxi,
the outside, brilliant from the Renault, but
oh, and Cal loses it on the inside.
It's tough on the inside of that corner. The camber can unsettle the car so much, and especially where he went wide, if he's got I can't remember the bits, the rubble or the rumble or whatever the asphalt is on the outside of the track, can't bloody remember, but you go on the dirty line of the track, you lose grip, and he's gone on the inside coming up that hill, and unfortunately looks like it's just unsettled his car.
Yeah, really unfortunate for Cal, as he had the move done round the outside at turn 10, but then just a little bit of a mistake there, and that will cost him valuable seconds to his rivals out in front. But
brilliant move, though, by Maxi to come back at him and actually get that done as well. He definitely took that moment. He wants to get back in front. He's not racing him, but the door was left open a little bit and he just walked straight through.
Absolutely. If there's a gap left there, no matter who it is, any racing driver will want to put his car with an opportunity to make an overtake.
Back here as well, sorry, a bit of action at the back here. We've got Apoplex closing in on Prev going into turn 1. Not late enough on the brakes to have an attempt this time round. But he is reeled in that Ferrari very quickly. Huge, nearly pushing him through turn 3. But there is a huge deficit in regards to the tyre life there. Prev still running on his tyres nearly from the beginning after his early stop. 20 lap hold compared to Apoplex's 7 lap hold. Is he going to send it into 5? He has a little look, trying to unsettle the Ferrari. But all he's going to see in his rearview mirrors at the moment is just pure black and silver from that Mercedes and a little bit of green in places. While watching that, I've missed it, but Cal's actually got back past Maxi now down the straight, and he's made it stick this time into turn 1. But he's now 2.5 seconds off the back of Woody. He has lost a lot of time through that little mistake.
So James Laws with DRS on CHM, not able to close the gap quite enough. We'll see if Appleplex can maybe get this move done, as he'll have DRS as they come on to the start-finish straight.
Well, and he thought James was going to have a go at CHM into turn 3 there, but there we go, like you say, you called it as it happens. Appleplex running side by side with Prev into turn 1, and he's made the move before the braking zone. The DRS playing such an advantage around this track, but it's hard to shift people out of that DRS zone as well. They can follow quite easily around it.
Yep, and Appleplex doing well to get that move done comfortably, and James still right on the back of CHM.
Just to quickly say as well, down the back straight, Woody down to 5/10 off the back of old Dad's. He's come straight back at the Ferrari, well within the DRS zone. Cal slowly creeping in, but he's going to be hoping these two guys can fight so he can really make some time back up.
Yeah, now we have the other racing point. James Laws right behind CHM. James Laws getting a good exit out of the final 2 corners. And surely he's going to have this move done as he switches to the inside. But that straight line speed of the Mercedes is so impressive. He pushed him all the way. But in the end, James Laws is able to send it up the inside and put himself into 10th.
You may have to remind me as well. I'm trying to think how long these medium tyres do run in the race. I personally thought it was around about now when these guys would start be pitting, but
yeah. So
oh man,
well,
right on that. Cue. Oh, don't say I've got this luck again. But now Xerxes in for Red Bull from the lead with a 12-second gap he had before he came in. It's an amazing stint, and he's going on to another set of mediums.
Oh boy.
So that is a very long stint to begin the race for a two-stop, or they didn't get the message to put him on the hards. Where is he going to come out, though?
I was expecting the hard tires to go on to that Red Bull.
However, even with a two-stop, he's actually ahead of the trio that we would be expecting to lead this race on fresh mediums as well.
Wow.
So if you take Xerxes, Old Dad, Woody, and Cal all need to make another stop in this race, and Xerxes has got it all sat in his lap. What a brilliant stint!
And the letdown of State and James going side by side through turns 1 and 2. Great stuff from both of them, and James able to get that 7th position here.
So I'm just stunned that worked. He's come out in that position ahead of these guys. Clearly the traffic's held them up.
Well, yeah, I think after their pit stops on laps 11 or 12 or whenever it was, as we've got a yellow flag, and I think that's the Haas
of blood and sand. He's had a moment. He hadn't pit, so he's had a bit of a moment there because the gap has just dropped, and he is now, I believe, finally coming into the pits. So that is very unfortunate, especially on his in-lap.
Well, Xerxes retakes the lead after just a lap being in second. Retakes the lead on fresh mediums, but Old Dad's trying his best to close the gap, get DRS on that Red Bull.
Yeah, Old Dad's has got to make the most of the fact that his tyres, even though they are a lot more worn, they are up to temperature, and these mediums do take a lap or two to wear in. So if he's going to do anything, he needs to do it sooner rather than later, but I think he may have already missed his chance with Xerxes' slight little lock-up in through 4, but already bridging that gap out already.
Yeah, the gap up over 1.7 seconds just through half a lap. It was at round about 1 second heading into turn 1, and we still have Cal chasing the racing point of Woody Wolfie. We've seen this for several laps now. Cal trying to claw his way back. Couple of minor mistakes, which is uncharacteristic for Cal, as he's been so consistent so far this season. Not all going his way so far today, but still plenty of time to make his way back. And he may have an opportunity here, as he will have DRS on the racing point. He's got plenty of overtake to work with, but he's opting not to use it for the time being. Woody's covering off the inside line enough, and he's stayed ahead of Cal into the braking zone.
Yeah, it's nice to see after last week where Woody, first guy to topple Cal's winning streak, and all of a sudden we've got 4 drivers here that could, any one of them could take the top spot, depending on how the rest of this race goes.
Cal sending it through turn 4, up the inside. He got a great run up the hill through turn 3, and he is able to get that move done on the racing point. And now that Ferrari that he's been chasing for just about this entire stint on these mediums is now just in front of him.
The gap to Old Dad's already for Xerxes, 3.3 seconds. That Red Bull must be loving it right now.
Red Bull strategy team should be patting themselves on the back here, because he does have to stop again. I think we were expecting a 1 stop from him, but he can go onto the soft tires at the end, while Old Dad's Cal are going to have to go onto another set of mediums to make it to the end.
Talking about that as well, Cal using a bit more of his battery just to get a bit closer to Old Dad's. Old Dad's has gone defensive into turn 1. The yellow in the middle set. Is that 2 Mercedes that have had a collision here between CHM and Appleplex?
I think Appleplex had already gone off before his teammate went past.
So you called the Mercedes collision this time, not me.
Unfortunate for Appleplex losing it. We saw him lose it in a similar area earlier, so maybe just struggling there through turns 4 and 5.
I'm surprised Cal isn't using more of that battery to try and clear the Ferrari of Old Dad's. I know the strategies are going to differ a little bit between themselves and Xerxes, but surely he's going to want to get into that open space, get the track position to try and start knocking away at the Red Bull's time.
And Appleplex using the part of the track that'll be used in 2021 in real life.
Formerly known as the MotoGP bit, wasn't it? So,
yeah.
That's where the bikes take it.
And he gets out of the way as these battles continue.
It is a shame to see these little pop-ups for the penalties are popping up. I know it's not the battle on track, but Appleplex doing a great job to get out of the way, and the game unfortunately penalising him for it twice.
I think it is all about how much time you either gain or lose by taking those little scenic routes. And unfortunately, it's not quite worked out as he would have hoped. And he has retired in the pits. But we've still got plenty of action on our hands. Old Dad's Cal and Woody Wolfie, all within 0.6 of each other.
Just to look at the strategies as well, we expected the guys on the mediums who started on the mediums, beg your pardon, to actually go onto the hards, and Blood and Sand didn't. He followed suit onto another set of mediums. So we got Sega, Maxi, they both did opt for the hard tyres, as well as James Laws. So 3 of them opting for the 1-stop. But a couple of the other drivers actually going for a 2-stop.
Yep, we'll see. Maybe a late safety car could throw a wrench into all these different strategies. But Cal closing the gap. He's got DRS down the main straight, but can't close the gap enough into turn 1 to have a go at Old Dad's. But as we've seen before, Cal getting a great run through turn 3, and he's going to challenge the Ferrari into turn 4, sending it around the outside. But I think Old Dad's just about stays ahead. Cal still challenging as they come through turn 6. He goes a little bit wide, and Old Dad's is able to hold position.
Just to chuck it out there as well, just because with all this battling's going on, James in the McLaren, after having that moment earlier on, only 8 seconds behind this battle going on, and he's on the similar strategy. So he has clawed back a lot of time.
Yeah, good to see that recovery drive from James. His teammate, though, struggling with this Ferrari. He's been looking at the back of Old Dad's for more than a few laps so far today. But surely this is the lap to get the move done. He's got plenty of overtake. He's got DRS. Old Dad's with great straight line speed. He's covering off the inside, going to make the McLaren go the long way around. And look at the move and the traction on that McLaren. Cal sends it round the outside at turn 1 and puts himself up into P2.
Just about to say, if he didn't make the move then, I think Woody would have been very close onto the back of both of them again. If you're the car in the middle of this little sandwich, you don't know which way to be looking, forwards or backwards. Just to point it out again, I'm sorry, while this is all going on, the gap out in front to Xerxes, 5.8 seconds. He's just enjoying the free track, I think, by the looks of it.
It's worth mentioning also that from this point on, he's on the preferred strategy. He's going to be on the better tire the rest of the way, whether it be on fresher mediums at this point or on fresh softs at the end, while the others are going to be on another set of mediums. So he's going to have tire advantages the rest of the way over all of his direct rivals here. So it's really worked out well for Xerxes.
He just clocks the fastest lap of the race as well. Dare I say it? I don't want it to be the case, but safety car could blow this thing wide open again.
Old Dad's trying to stick to the back of the McLaren, just pushing a little too hard there into turn 1. Cutting that curb a bit too much, gets another track limits penalty.
Yeah, unfortunately so. Just checking the penalty situation, we do have Old Dads who's got 6 seconds now. Woody's on 3, James in the McLaren up onto 6. A few drivers still actually keeping it very well and clean. Maxi's on 3, a Letdown Estate up to 6 now, and Prev on 3 as well. So right now, Cal didn't really need to be battling these guys. If you include the penalties, he's got the track position, but they clearly didn't want to let him go. And as I've mentioned the penalties, Prev unfortunately has now gone up to 6 as well. Just
penalties.
Checking. Sorry, carry on.
The Renault's had a bit of an off here. I think Maxi is in the gravel as a Letdown Estate comes flying through. Maybe the hard tire's not working for Maxi. It can be difficult to get those tires up to temperature where you really get the grip that you need out of them. But further forward, Woody's having a move at Old Dad's, and he is ahead of him before the braking zone at turn 1.
It's a shame to see it, but we've seen one Racing Point make a move, a brilliant move into turn 1, and we've just seen the other retire by the looks of it in the pit lane. Just a quick touch on the stream though, we do have Droft joining us. Evening gents, I hope you're all well, Droft. And if you haven't been watching it so far, you have missed one hell of an opening race, a part of this race.
Yeah, and the God King doing his fans proud out in front. I'm sure millions of his fans around the world will be watching nervously in anticipation of what today could bring. So
festivals in the street.
Yes, and I don't think even COVID restrictions could stop the fans from partying all night around the streets and celebrating what could be the first win of his Formula One career in any league, I believe.
I mean, I wasn't going to say those words after my track record of saying things while doing this, so I'm glad you did.
So, Xerxes out in front, Cal doing well to try and cut into that gap here. He's got a bit of a tire deficit in terms of wear and grip that he'll be experiencing, but he has got the pace to sort of stay around that 5.6, 5.7 mark. Is actually cutting the gap down by a couple of tenths here. And I think a lapped car may be interfering with Xerxes a little bit there and slowing him down just a tad through that middle sector, which may have also played a part.
I was just about to say, I think it may have been a little bit of traffic there, but Old Dads is not letting the Racing Point of Woody go at any stage. Remember, Woody is the one that pit before both of the guys around him, so he's on the older tyres, so to be in the position he's in, he's doing a very good job here. But that Ferrari we've seen has shown some very strong pace, and he is all over the back of the Racing Point as they come through the final sector here.
And you see the Ferrari struggling with that dirty air. It can be difficult to follow through that third sector. He's just gone a bit wide at a couple of corners, struggling to get the power down on corner exits, and that plays a big factor into making it difficult to overtake at this track. It's hard to get a good run out of some of these corners. Even though there is this long DRS straight, you've got to get a good exit out of turns 15 and 16, and that can be so difficult with dirty air.
He's had a very good drive out of turn 2 though, and he had to lift unfortunately due to the dirty air. Going through 3, I had a feeling, I thought he was going to try and send one up the inside then, but he just lost the front end grip unfortunately and ran wide. And the gap at the front, I believe, is actually coming down now. Cal really stretching the gap there to over 3.5 seconds now to Woody already, and down to 5.5 to Xerxes. I need to say this now, if anything goes wrong now and he doesn't, that's on you. You said it, Matty, right? Not me. Right. You cursed the God King.
I don't think even the commentators are worthy of cursing the God King. Nobody can curse the God King, but we will see.
I mean,
hopefully not, but We will see how it
doesn't he
plays
normally
out.
listen to the stream alongside, so he can probably hear us as well?
Yeah, no pressure. He's a man that doesn't feel pressure. He's immune to pressure. And now we're seeing the same bit of traffic that Xerxes had to deal with out in front. Now Cal is having to deal with, and that's lost him a little over half a second there as they come through Sector 1. So the gap back up to 6.1.
And once again, old Dad's got very close to the back of the racing point of Woody, and then again going through turn 3, just had to kind of let it go a bit. The front end of that Ferrari is just not coping well with the dirty air coming off the back of the racing point.
Yeah, old Dad's... He's been able to stick right on the back of the racing point, but I think when he needs that bit of grip, that bit of drive out of corners to set himself up for a move, he's just not been able to get it, and he would have probably liked to get this move done a few laps ago, but he just hasn't been able to do it.
I think we're going to start seeing some of these guys coming in soon, possibly. James in the McLaren, Woody, again, surely they're going to start coming in. And just checking that one there as well. Checking the comments on the stream there. Draft, do not curse the God King. Well, looks like you're going to have some conversations with your teammate there, Matty. That's on you, mate, not me. Sorry.
I don't think the God King can be cursed by us mere mortals. But we will see how it plays out. Over the halfway point here in Barcelona, Xerxes out in front. His strategy of starting on the mediums definitely paid off. He had a mega first stint, which saw him jump 3 or 4 drivers after the pit stops, and he's been leading just about ever since those first pit stops. And Cal just starting to drop back a couple of tenths now, struggling to maintain that gap. It was 6.1 seconds, and it's now fluctuating between 6.5 or 6 seconds.
Woody's dove in. Woody's looking like he's going on to his final set of tyres for the race. Sorry to interrupt the rundown, but the trigger has been pulled, followed by James in the McLaren.
Should be another set of mediums for those boys, and I think old Dads and Cal will be following suit fairly soon. The typical soft, medium strategy for all those that started on the softs.
You say that, James on the McLaren's come out on a set of softs. So, I don't know what strategy he's playing at there. If he can get those softs to go 26 laps, that's going to be something else.
I'm going to be honest. No matter how skilled he is at tire management, that's impossible. So he's going to have to stop again. I mean, Pirelli say the max that these softs can do around here, and remember, it is the C3 tires, so we are the hardest in the Pirelli range today, but this circuit is just so abrasive and just torches your tires. And so only 17 laps these softs are able to do. And it's an interesting strategy call. I'm a little lost for words. I don't know what the McLaren strategists would be thinking there.
Old Dad's has dived in as well, so that must be a reaction to the racing point of Woody. He's clearly remembering how the first stint went round in regards to pit stops, to see what happens here and what goes on. Another set of mediums for the Ferrari as well. Being held in the pit box there a little bit by the looks of it, but I think that may have just been on my end. Just to touch on the strategies and how these are playing out, even though he had a moment earlier on, Blood and Sand, up to P3, he's got 1 stop to go, but he's actually got a set of softs waiting for him, surely, at the end of this. So we can even see him coming back at these guys.
I think a late safety car could put him really up into competing for a podium here. He's had a really good drive, should be towards the front of that midfield pack come the end of this race, regardless of what happens in terms of safety cars. But it's been a really good drive from Blood and Sand to get himself that far up the field.
Yeah, started P9 once again. He's just ended up in the right position at the right time. Just waiting to see when Cal does decide to pull the trigger on his stop as well. He did run the first stint a little bit longer than the other drivers, as he has stayed out again, not reacting to the guys around him.
Yeah, and you see now the gap starting to open up a little bit between Xerxes and Cal, up to 7.5 seconds. 7.6, 7.7. It's growing all the time.
Need to throw this out there. Do you think it's possible he's going to stretch those mediums for a set of softs?
No, because Pirelli tell us that these mediums can only go a maximum of 31 laps. So that would only give him about 5 or so more laps, which would take him to 20 laps to go, which would then still be too much for the softs to handle. As I said, the softs go in a maximum of 17 laps, so I think even if you were able to somehow stretch that and make that work, he'd be losing so much time driving such worn tires, as he's already lost over a second the last couple of laps to Xerxes out in front.
Clearly I need to talk to Pirelli more then, because I'm clearly missing out on some information here, but just to touch on the leader out in front, unfortunately has picked up his first penalty of the Grand Prix 42 laps in. So the deficit, there is a 3 seconds there. And talking about I need to stop talking about things. Talking about penalties as well, old Dad's as well picking up another, unfortunately, and getting a little bit loose, coming up over into the final coming through the final sector. And I was just about to mention how he's actually closing onto the back of the racing point.
It's just more of the same, isn't it? He might even be a little bit quicker than Woody Wolfie in front, but that dirty air is playing such a big factor. He was right on the back of him all the way from turn 10, and he just couldn't get any sort of traction or grip where the racing point could, and that's caused him to lose some valuable time, and now he's over a second behind the racing point.
I mean, just checking the penalty situation, he does need to get going, because in that respect, with the penalties taking it on that...
Oh no! Old Dad's is round on the exit of turn 4, going a little bit wide, and that's going to cost him a lot of time. He did well to keep it out of the wall, avoided getting any damage, but that's Old Dad's all the way down to 7th. It had been such a good drive from the Ferrari man, and that is so unfortunate for him.
So Matty, you know when I say these things, I think you just need to stop me.
Well, now we've got the McLaren of James now putting pressure on Sega Takaz. The young Frenchman in the Williams doing his best to hold off the McLaren on fresh, soft tires. Sega on 15-lap-old hards, so probably won't see a bigger difference in tires all day. And as expected, the McLaren cruising past the Williams. Sega won't be fighting that one too hard on those hard tires.
That, the McLaren did have to literally go to nearly 0% on his battery deployment to actually do so.
Yeah, I think seeing James or Daisy or Strident from last season, as our fans may know him, he does get quite aggressive with his overtake, so it's not uncommon to see him with that flashing red light, as we just saw there, that battery under 10%. That is quite common for him, but he is able to get overtakes done with that strategy, so I think we see all of our drivers with sort of their own style and how they like to manage their ERS and how they like to make their moves. But what he does certainly seems to work for him, and now he is up into 5th.
Yeah, just looking here, touching on the whole penalty side of it, dare I say it quick, Cal, Blood and Sands, and CHM, the 3 drivers yet to have one. So very good racing by those guys, keeping all 4 wheels within the limits of the track.
I'm struggling to think what they're doing down at McLaren here with the strategies. We thought James was going to come out on a set of mediums. It seemed to be the perfect lap to come out for a set of mediums to take to the end. And Cal on 29 lap old mediums is losing a lot of time to Xerxes out in front. And not only that, he'll be losing time to Woody Wolfie and his teammate behind, being on much fresher, quicker tires. And
I'm starting to think your friend Pirelli may have got the tyres wrong here, because if he keeps it up, it's bridging another 5 laps, he could probably stretch a set of softs. And now to prove me wrong, is he diving in the pits? No. Okay, that's fine. It's okay. But yeah, he's
maximum of 31 laps according to Pirelli. He's going to push them mediums right to the limit here.
Wish we could see the tyre wear percentages.
Yeah,
it's just the one thing we don't have access to.
We need the AWS graphics put in the next F1 game.
Yeah, not within striking distance when tyres will explode.
And so the strategy's just playing out here as we come towards the business end of this Grand Prix. Just 22 laps to go. And our I think 3 drivers, all 3 of them in the top 3, will have one more pit stop to go. So I think there's still a lot to be settled and a lot of action. It's going to happen out on track here towards the closing laps.
Oh, definitely. I think there's only 2, questionably 3, Maxi and the Renault could go to the end on the tyres they're on right now. Sorry, including Sega, beg your pardon, so 4. The rest, all going to have to stop again, which is going to mix the proceedings right up here. The rate this is going, though, you could see the likes of Xerxes and Cal coming back out in front of Blood and Sand, so still holding one for P1 and P2. I would have thought Woody would have been closing in the back of the Haas a bit quicker. He has got the gap down to 3 seconds, but he just needs to get that a little bit closer if he wants to try and make a difference here, because right now the gap to Cal is, if I'm working this out correctly, is more than a pit stop.
Yep, and it's going to be very close with that pit stop, but I think Blood and Sand is going to have to stop again, and I think it's going to be interesting where Sega Takaz ends up here with his strategy. He's the only driver on the hard tires, and he's going to be taking those right to the end unless there's a safety car or some sort of incident. And with James in front on the soft tire, Blood and Sand ahead on the mediums, both of those guys will have to pit again. So it'll be interesting to see Sega going all the way to the end, if he'll be able to jump those guys and maybe hold position when those guys are on the fresh rubber at the end.
Oh, definitely. I think the one thing Sega just has to be careful of, if he does start seeing red in his wing mirrors, really. Old Dad's has shown he's got the pace. He's still only on his 5-lap old mediums. A bit of a spin, unfortunately, which would have taken a little bit of life out of them. But once he settles down, I'm expecting to see that gap of around about 6.5 seconds drop very quick.
Yep. Just as you say that, it is dropping, or did drop a little bit. Then Old Dad's not getting a great exit out of the last couple of corners, but we do expect Old Dad's to be closing that gap and bringing the fight to the Williams.
Talking about gaps going down as well, Woody down to 2.5 seconds off the back of Blood and Sand. So he knows he needs these laps now are important. He's going to be on a lot more worn tyres after we see what Cal does pit onto. I'm still holding out. He's taking a set of softs to the end. 32 laps on those mediums. But anything Woody can do now is going to be important if he can try and get the undercut on Cal here.
Cal still not coming in. And he is running a risk now of possibly getting a puncture, and we'll right on board.
I hate to say it, I think your friend Pirelli is wrong. I think Cal has somehow got either a set of hards on that are painted yellow, or he's going for those softs. Because if he does,
Pirelli, you're never wrong, huh? Right?
When have they ever been wrong?
Yeah. But I think even if he is able to somehow stretch this stint to a set of softs, it'll be interesting to see where he is compared to Woody Wolfe, because Woody Wolfe did the typical soft medium that we were expecting to see from all of those that started on the softs, and Cal opting for a bit of a change here, maybe a change on the fly, seeing Xerxes out in front, wanting to match his tire choice for the last stint. We'll see if this gamble pays off.
Just going to say that the gap is about 6 seconds, so including the penalty, unfortunately, for Xerxes. But if Cal does do a longer stint on the softs, if he has to pull the trigger, in the next 2 or 3 laps and go onto the softs, every lap he's on that fresh set is going to be so fast, and it's going to really make a difference. I think it's going to be side by side between himself and Woody when he does pit, just crossing around about that 20-second mark now between the two drivers. It is interesting to see, just looking through the field as well, the battery deployment or usage difference between all the drivers at the moment. Our leader in Xerxes sitting up on very high battery, just stored up. Similar with Cal running first and second there, and then just jumping back to Blood and Sand. He's doing well, he's stored quite a bit here, but then just behind him Woody, who's been pushing, who's now under a second on the Haas driver, using substantially more battery, a lot more energy. So the Racing Point driver is going to be wanting to make this move sooner rather than later if he can get within that pit stop window, which he's very close to doing on the McLaren of Cal. As we say that, Cal is in the pits as well from second place, so it's going to be close on exit. And what are McLaren going to put on the car for the last stint?
It's going to be the soft.
Surely it's a set of softs. I called it. Pirelli is wrong. I told you it was going to be a set of softs. But it's going to be very close on exit between the Racing Point and the McLaren.
I think the real measure of whether that call was the right one will be what can he do up against Woody Wolfe here in this final stint.
Oh, definitely. And it's not often I'm right, so when I am, I'm taking it.
Well, you may have been right in predicting his strategy, but was he right in choosing his own strategy?
I was going to say, definitely. I'm not saying it's the best one to go for at this stage, but I just had this gut feeling he was going for the softs because of the fact that we had Xerxes 10 seconds up the road. It looks like he's really trying something risky, and like you say, he's got to get past Woody and Blood and Sand as well, still out there. And as our race leader comes in, surely that's a reaction to Cal coming in as well. He just wants to make sure he wants to cover him off.
Yeah, covering off the undercut. And I think now he knows that no matter how worn his softs get, Cal will be on a lap worse tires in terms of wear all the way right to the end of this race. So he's comfortable going in and pitting. And
I would have thought he would have stayed out another lap or two, to be fair, but maybe that's just risking it too much.
I think he done the right thing covering off Cal, as now Woody Wolfe gets past the Haas of Blood and Sand. Woody Wolfe up into second place. And Cal will be trying to follow the Racing Point through here on the fresh soft tires. But I think at the end of this race, those soft tires will be pretty much dead, as we saw in the first stint, how quickly those soft tires fell off. And that was around about the 10-11 lap mark. Granted, those were tires used from qualifying, and maybe Cal going for a move here. He likes just to stay behind the Haas this time around. But it'll be interesting to see how... Oh, and Cal making a move. Not often you see an overtake through there. But Cal now up into third.
Didn't look like Blood and Sand was sticking around to fight that one too much. He's here to do his own race. And I think he just wants to get on with the stint he's still doing. But I didn't even think, actually, to be fair, considering that it could be the quali set of softs they are going on to as well. Which is going to be definitely interesting call. As just touch on here, I've got Hill. He's just posting on the stream here, softs are going to die in 10. So not holding out much hope for either of the drivers that have taken this. And as I'm saying that, Cal has made short work of Woody in the Racing Point. Those fresh softs definitely making the difference compared to the mediums right now.
Yeah, and he had to get it done quickly, as he's going to have to build a little bit of a gap here. Not only worried about Woody, but he's also going to try and close that gap down to Xerxes out in front. He did gain a little bit of time on the one lap undercut that he pulled. He gained about a second, I think, on our race leader. And of course, no pens for Cal, and I think 3 seconds still for Xerxes. So we'll see if that comes into play.
Yeah, I think the big one here is he's going to want to bridge that 1 second gap to the Racing Point of Woody here. Because if he doesn't, and Woody comes back at him, but saying that, Xerxes responds with his own fastest lap of the race. So it looks like Cal played his cards.
Oh.
And he's responded straight back again. So just trading fastest lap to the Grand Prix this late on. Both drivers on a fresh set of softs. It's definitely going to be a close end to this one.
Blood and Sand coming in for his final stop of this one. And we'll see him drop a couple of places. He'll be going for a fresh set of softs. Also, I let down a state on a fresh set of softs, which will take both those drivers to the end.
We've only got one more guy to make a stop this evening, and I think that could be James in the McLaren, or Strident, or Daisy, or Dazzy, or however you say one of the many names that this guy has. Yeah, I believe that is everyone up to scratch. CHM and Prev, questionably, could be making a stop here, along with Maxi as well at the back, but besides that, anyone who needs to make the decisions and play their cards for the strategy have done so now to see who we're going to get in the top three.
I think Old Dads and Sega will be one to watch in these closing laps, as another fastest lap is set, and we'll see, can Cal respond this time around as he comes across the line? He can't get the fastest lap back this time around, so Xerxes with that extra fastest lap point as we come into the closing stages here.
Oh, this is brilliant. Oh, I love it. They've both got so much battery as well. So one guy pushes, the other guy has an answer. It's just as simple as that.
Oh, and we spoke about James having to pit one more time, and he is in onto another set of softs, which will take him to the end.
That could be a little interesting battle as well between James and Blood and Sand as well. Both on a fresh set of softs. Not much of a gap on track as well, so the McLaren driver could be looking to just try and claw back as much as he can from this race. Like I say, he did start on the front row. Unfortunately, an earlier collision in the race with his teammate, from what we can gather, causing an early stop on the front wing change. So he's done well to get back to where he is, but he's going to be wanting any position he can claw back now.
Xerxes doing well to respond to those fastest laps set by Cal in second. He's been able to maintain that gap over 8 seconds. He has a few seconds margin for error here. He does have the 3-second penalty, but still 5 seconds buffer in between him and Cal in second place.
And you said the battle to watch as well was Old Dads and Sega, the gap down to 1.2 seconds. The medium's done half the amount of laps that the hards have done.
And Sega getting a little loose.
So it's we could see a couple last lap changes here, and yeah, it definitely has affected the Williams as the Ferrari's all over the back of him through 4 and going down into 5.
Now then, Old Dads was with that front-running pack for most of this race, had a little bit of a spin, dropped him down the field, but he's looking to make his way back. And I think 4th would be a very good recovery result for the Ferrari man as he has a look at the inside on Sega Takaz. I think also...
And even the other way around as well. Great drive for Sega if positions do swap. Brilliant drive for the one-stopping Williams. Getting into the top 5 after, he's kept out of trouble. And right now he's keeping in the way of the Ferrari of Old Dads.
Yeah, and a great exit out of the final 2 corners for Old Dads, and I think he will be able to get this move done. Not much Sega can do about it. Old Dads up into 4th. Sega Takaz will now have to watch Blood and Sand just 4.3 seconds behind on fresh soft tires.
Well, 10 to go, anything is possible in that respect, so these guys on the fresher softs, the likes of Blood and Sand, and yeah, you've got James in the McLaren as well, just behind him. So there could be another 2 positions that Sega could be looking to try and escape from losing. Old Dad's got a little bit loose there through the middle sector, giving Sega the opportunity to get back within that DRS zone. So it's just what he's going to need to get that DRS, just to try and pull him away from the Haas, who's pulled within a second, or just about a second, I beg your pardon, through the first sector, and nearly coming through the middle as well. So those softs are really making the difference here. I know it's not much of a fight between 29 lap old hards and 2 lap old softs, but still a second to sector, that's just phenomenal.
Yeah, Sega not able to stay within DRS range till the end of that lap, and that will do Blood and Sand a favor, as now he'll be able to continue to close down that gap. We'll likely see another battle involving the Williams on our hands here soon.
Blood and Sand definitely is pushing the car as well. They run very wide. We're using every bit of the tarmac through 4. Just as the curbs came up, they're nearly touching the grass. So he's definitely pushing, wanting to close that gap down as soon as possible with the laps running out.
I do wonder if Cal had gone with the soft medium strategy, if you would have pit a few laps earlier, as we've got, I think it's Old Dads
again. Oh, so unfortunate for the Ferrari driver. I didn't catch how he lost it, but I think he may have just lost the rear. The way he spun onto the infield, in the middle of sector 3 between 12 and 13, just on top of the hill there, and he loses the rear nearly again coming through into the final corner. Very unlucky for the Ferrari driver. He's shown he could do so much in regards to this, and in the same side of it, Woody has just been passed by Blood and Sand.
He pit for soft tires, so Woody coming out right next to the Haas. They're still side by side coming into turn 4, and Woody's able to make the move up the inside, and now Sega Takaz, for the time being, is sat on the podium. Now, whether he can make that stick with 8 laps to go, we will see.
I mean, I need to throw this out there now, just because I said earlier on about how he starts at the back and he always comes through to the front. If you look at the penalty situation, we could see Blood and Sand in for a 3rd place.
That is a very real possibility. So much still yet to be determined. So much can still happen.
I was going to say a lot can, but even with the likes of James behind him and old Dad's both on 12 seconds worth of penalties, the Haas driver is definitely going to be sitting very comfortable for possibly looking at a top 3 here this evening.
Woody Wolfie closing right up to the back of Sega Takaz on fresh soft tires. I think Woody Wolfie saw that he wasn't going to catch either of the two out in front and just thought, why not have a go, maybe get fastest lap on some fresh soft tires. I think he thought he wouldn't have too much trouble making back the places that he lost with that pit stop, but Sega Takaz not making it easy on him, and he's going to send it down the inside, and he looks to have the move done. Big tire and grip advantage there for the Racing Point, and Sega Takaz can only do so much to defend. Woody back up into third.
Just got to worry about now is the fuel situation he's on there. I can see the little yellow light on the heads-up display showing that he is under the recommended amount he's going to need to get to the end of the race. So it might be a possible bit of fuel saving for if he does go for the fastest lap of the Grand Prix.
And now Sega Takaz again on the receiving end of some overtaking. Blood and Sand is through into turn 1, but a great drive out of turn 2 from Sega Takaz. He got right on the back of the Haas, but unable to really make anything of it as they come into turn 4. Blood and Sand is up into 4th.
Now all he needs to do is stick with the back of that Racing Point, and he could be on for that top 3. He knows he'll be able to see on his screen that the penalties that the Racing Point does have and how close this is going to be.
And out in front, Xerxes able to get the gap to second, over 10 seconds between him and the McLaren.
Very surprised as well, Xerxes still got a lot of battery stored up in the car, compared to the likes of Cal, who I'm going to be honest, I would have thought it would have been the other way around. Cal down sitting around about that 30% mark. I'd assumed because the gap's growing, it would have been Xerxes that's actually using more battery, but apparently the Red Bull just has the pace around here.
Oh, and speaking of pace, Woody Wolfie does indeed set the fastest lap on those fresh soft tires, making that last pit stop seem like it was worth it, but still in danger of being jumped by Blood and Sand as James is able to send it up the inside of Sega Takaz in turn 1.
I mean, just touching on the fastest laps here, I'm just checking them because they've changed so much. Woody there sitting there with his 18.1, however, just behind that you've got Xerxes with an 18.2, Blood and Sand with an 18.2, Cal with an 18.3. So wow. All 4 of those drivers very, very close on their optimal pace.
I think Woody maybe not expecting to have this issue with the penalties and Blood and Sand right behind him. I think when he made the decision to pit for fresh soft tires, he had the fastest lap in mind, which he was able to get, but also had in mind staying on the podium, which he might just be able to do. He's been able to extend the gap to the Haas driver behind. It's just about 2.8, 2.9 seconds. He's going to need to get that gap over 3 seconds if he wants to stay on the podium.
I mean, he's definitely going to be hopeful. He pit earlier as well. You do have to take into account, unfortunately, Blood and Sand, he does have the older soft tyres on by about 5 laps, which doesn't seem like much, but on the softs, that's about a third of your stint, nearly half your stint that you do. So the Racing Point has definitely done enough here. I keep seeing that yellow light flash on board and it's making me anxious. It needs to save some fuel.
Yeah, he will be pushing his fuel tank right to the limit to get to the line. Keeps flashing on and off again. But that gap now over 3 seconds. So it looks like he's going to do enough to stay on the podium.
I think the gap may be there as well for him, because the likes of James or Strident in the McLaren here, or Daisy, yeah, he's catching the back of Blood and Sand here in the Haas very quickly here. So this is going to be more, I think, for pride than for position, but after what's happened to the McLaren driver this evening, to cross the line 4th is definitely going to be a great achievement.
So then just 3 laps remaining, and I think everything is all but sorted here in this one. Xerxes with a comfortable gap out in front. A Lewis Hamilton-esque performance here in Spain. Never really troubled once he took the lead. He never looked back, and that gap has only grown throughout this final stint. Cal with a good drive to get second, and he looks to have a very comfortable gap behind as well. And Woody Wolfie been able to extend that gap now to 3.5 seconds to the car behind. Blood and Sand with a very good drive has put himself up into 4th, and then we've got a whole load of penalty situations behind, so we will see where that takes us.
I mean, considering the strategies that have played out this evening, like you say, Xerxes, that first stint, just amazing. We were too busy focused, I believe. I speak for myself here, but let me know if I am. But we were too busy focusing on the little trio for the lead that has happened, and we believe Dagers may have had a little moment there on his 37-lap old hards in the middle sector, but he's still going. But yeah, Xerxes surprised us all there with the first stint. Cal doing very well with his middle stint, proving, Pirelli wrong, but those medium tyres could go longer than normal. And right now he's stretching those softs to the very end. The gap between Blood and Sand and Woody here, remember the 3-second penalty to play, so Blood and Sand's probably hoping that Woody gets a little bit pushy in regards to the fastest lap if someone can take it from him, but he's going to need to close that second in if he wants any chance to step on the podium.
And I think he's
thinking about James behind.
Yeah, he's going to have a McLaren to deal with here on these last couple of laps. And as you said, James, 12 seconds of penalties, not really going to go when he's not going to get this position on track or in the final classification, as he's gone a bit wide there, and that's cost him a couple of seconds.
I was just about to say, surely you let him through and you stick within the DRS, try and pull yourself up to the gap, because just doing that there has cost him nearly half a second. Don't get me wrong, Woody does have the pace over him at the moment, but surely with the McLaren right on his gearbox through the first sector would have been some form of distraction.
Now, we look ahead though to our race leader, who has started his final lap just coming into the second sector now. Round turn 4, he has put on a fabulous display of driving. I think he got the strategy bang on. Was on the quickest tire at the end. Never really looked in doubt this one. Comfortable in the end for the God Gang.
It looks like he may be doing a formation finish with his teammate, even though there may be a lap difference. It'll be interesting to see if a letdown estate does just back off just to basically end the race here and now in that respect, or does he want to do the final lap of Pride? But yeah, he's drove phenomenally this evening. The God King himself, Xerxes. And as unbiased as I can say it, brilliant result for Red Bull as well. As you mentioned, they were leading the joint constructors, so this is an absolute brilliant drive as he's going to come round the final corner. Round here we are in Spain. Xerxes for Red Bull takes first place here tonight. What a brilliant drive and what a great win.
And the first win for Xerxes in Wheel2wheel, and what a victory it was. Cal in the McLaren, still our championship leader with a good result. Finishing second, Woody Wolfie, last week's race winner, coming through the chicane for the final time, and he's got that gap comfortably over the 3 seconds he needed to the car behind. So Woody Wolfie will take third. Blood and Sand with a good drive, getting his way up through the field, finishing fourth. The McLaren of James crosses the line fifth, and it'll be interesting to see if he keeps that position. Sega just coming across the line now, not able to do enough to take that position off James. So the McLaren stays fifth, Sega sixth, Old Dad's seventh, and we have a letdown of state. The last car to complete the final lap will be eighth, while the lapped cars of Maxi, CHM, and Prev finishing 9th, 10th, and 11th.
And just while I let down the state is coming around the final corner there, just to touch on the stream here, a couple comments. Aylin here, get the party poppers ready. There's Riley, Xerxes entering the final corner, and everyone has been happy with that great drive. Commented there from Droft, the God King from Pill. Aylin as well, very happy with that. So yeah, like I say, that's just a few of his millions of fans worldwide that are excited to see the God King take
there will
the top
be
step.
Parties in the streets tonight, that is for sure. Blood and Sand, driver of the day though, well deserved. Worked his way through the field and got himself a good result. We see Xerxes on the podium celebrating his maiden win. Wonderful to see. Now can try and get our podium sitters in for an interview. And take you through the final classifications of the Spanish Grand Prix. Xerxes gets his first win in Wheel2Wheel racing. Cal finishing second, maintains his championship lead. Woody Wolfie, last week's winner, got himself on the podium and got fastest lap. Then Blood and Sand in fourth, James in fifth, Sega Takal sixth, Old Dad seventh, a letdown of state in eighth, Maxi in ninth, CHM 10th, Prev in 11th. And now we are joined by our podium sitters. We'll start with Woody Wolfie, and we'll just remind all of our interviewees to make sure you're allowing your voice to be shared in the party settings so all of our fans can hear this interview.
I'm just double checking now. I think we're all good.
So, Woody, you look to be in a good position for most of that race, and you had a good scrap with Old Dads through the middle part of that race. How did you think that played out for you?
I think it worked out pretty well, to be honest. Well, I think I started sixth. I had a terrible qualifying and managed to get into a bit higher up, a couple of positions gained off the start. But yeah, I mean, yeah, it was good. There were some good battles in that race, I agree.
Yeah, and then the final pit stop, did you think it was more or less a free stop because you were able to get the position back?
I had my teammate as an engineer after he had to leave, and he kept me an eye on the gaps. So I said, "Can we go for the fastest lap?" And we were thinking about it, but we ended up pitting and still getting the podium in the fastest lap. So it worked out pretty much perfectly in the end.
Yeah, it definitely turned out to be the right call, I think, getting you that fastest lap bonus point. Diggle, you got anything to ask our third place finisher?
Yeah, just I thought it was a brilliant drive from start to finish, and I think early on in the race we had this little trio of cars going around. I just don't know how you would have concentrated if to look forward at the car in front of you at one point, or the Ferrari behind or the McLaren, which way around it was. How did you cope with all of that?
I did say from the start to my teammate, I said if there's no safety cars, I'm a bit of a tyre killer, so I'll probably have to make it a free stop, which ended up being the case. So, but yeah, we had a nice battle. I think that train was me, Cal, and Old Dad's, and yeah, we had.
Yeah.
I think at the start, James was up in battling with Cal as well, which was entertaining.
So yeah,
we did notice that your teammate did go, unfortunately, so it'd have been nice to see him there as well. But yeah, you three guys put on one hell of a spectacle, and some of the moves you guys were pulling on each other were just brilliant, honestly brilliant.
Yeah, and making your way through the cars that hadn't pit yet when you were on your second stint. That was something to see as well, trying to follow each other through and not lose any time to each other.
I kind of had a strategy. I didn't know if it worked, but I seen the lapped, not they weren't lapped cars, they just hadn't pitted. And I was thinking, can I put a car between me and Old Dad's, or a car between me and Cal, and just try and break from that? And I don't know if it did work. I think we all pretty much got through equally. But yeah, fantastic, I thought.
Yeah, it was really great to watch. Congratulations on your podium. Great result. Well done.
Thank you.
So now we move on to Cal finishing second. Well, you dominated the first couple of races. Now a couple of second place finishes in a row, but it was still a good drive from you. What did you make of that, Cal?
Yeah, just a nice steady race, to be fair. I wasn't too happy in qualifying with CHM, I think people probably saw in the chat, but I just moved on from that, got pole. I had to switch from medium to soft, to be honest. Strategy would have been to start on mediums like Xerxes, but I was a bit annoyed because I would have got pole on the medium, so I thought, sod it, let's just go on the soft, let's get pole and move on. And then obviously start race was really good. James was doing really well. We were sort of working together, just managing the pace, managing the tyres. And then he had that little incident, which obviously then caused us to drop back. That kind of gave Xerxes a bit of a run, because I could not pass Old Dad's because he had so much more straight line speed. My car wasn't really made for overtaking; it was more for sitting behind, more for sitting in front and just controlling. So yeah, I just had to sit behind. Xerxes closed the gap, and then from that point on, really, it was just the whole way. Even though I was sort of in the train with Old Dad, I was just quite happy to let him back out, just stayed in the tyres, and then just sort of drove to the end. That's about it.
So do you think, given the strategy difference between you and Xerxes, do you think there's anything more you could have done? I noticed you stretched out your second stint to go onto the soft tires at the end, and that didn't really cost you anything. I think it just a gamble to see maybe make something happen and try and close the gap on the last stint.
Not really. I knew Xerxes, unless he made a mistake, then obviously he was going to win the race. So I just kind of planned to cover Woody. I knew he pitted onto the mediums. Knew he would be in a little bit of traffic. I think he caught Blood and Sands, was it? So I knew he wasn't going to close too much. As soon as I came out on the softs at the end, I was going to overtake him, and then it was just a case of just sitting in for the rest of the race. But it was an alright race. I didn't really make any mistakes myself, but I think Maxim, I almost spun him and ended up spinning myself, which was my mistake. But aside from that, it was just a pretty standard race, really. It was quite similar for me to Netherlands, where I was just in a bit of traffic and just sort of couldn't quite get to first and was ahead of third, so it's just quite similar in that respect. But it's good results. I don't like the track, so I'm happy.
Yeah.
Really happy with this.
I just wanted to ask as well, just regarding, you touched on the middle stint there, thank you first of all for that, because I called that. So you were going to go to the softs to the end, and Mattia didn't believe me. But yeah, at what point did you really decide that was what you were going to commit to? Because I believe you're on like 33 lap old mediums at one point, and the gap was just growing to Xerxes.
Yeah, so like I said, there was no way I was going to catch Xerxes unless he made a mistake. So it was just a case of covering Woody behind. I knew he would come out ahead on that final stint, but I knew I'd have the tyres. So the reason I extended the middle stint was because I think I had 74% on the front left. but my front right, my two rears were like 50%. They weren't bad at all, so I wasn't really feeling any like traction issues. I wasn't really feeling slow. Just kind of coasting it to make sure that preserve the tyres enough to get the final stint on the softs and basically make sure that Woody had no chance of getting second. That was kind of it. Like I said, Xerxes was just too far ahead. I think it was quite similar pace, so to close the gap isn't really going to happen.
You definitely didn't look slow, so if that's any consolation. And we did miss the incident with your teammate earlier on. I don't think either of us caught what actually happened there.
I think he came out of, which corner is it? 1, 2, 3, turn 4, he came out, he ran wide onto the grass, and he started spinning. I didn't know if he was going to come across the track or go left off the track, but he started coming across the track to the point that it was either a case of I was going to smash straight into him and probably lose my wheel, or just take the gravel. So I took the gravel. That's when I lost the pace to Old Dad's, which kind of killed both of our races for me and James, because James was controlling it quite comfortable, and I reckon he'd have probably got a podium, I reckon. If that hadn't happened, I'd probably been. If that hadn't happened, I would have been probably 10 seconds up the road at the end, so it'd have been close between me and Xerxes, but that kind of killed for both of us, and then it was just a case of just sit in and see where we get to in the end.
Yeah, well, it was a good result in the end. You maintain your championship lead, so well done for that. Thank you for joining us. So now we move on to the man who got his first win in wheel-to-wheel racing, Xerxes. How are you feeling after that one?
Oh, baby.
Oh, baby.
Yeah, not bad, mate. First win ever, I think that should be.
Yeah. As I said on the commentary.
Alright, I guess.
Alright, I guess. I was expecting a little more energy, to be honest, but
I'm not I'm not one to show much emotion, to be honest, mate.
Alright, well, the strategy seemed to be the key for you today, and I think after the first stint, me and Diggle on commentary were both very surprised at where you came out after that first stint. You were in a great position. Were you expecting to be that far forward after that first stint on the mediums?
No, I think it was saying I was going to come out third, behind Old Dad's, I think it was. And yeah, so luckily the boys in front of me, they also had to pit, so I think Blood and Sand stayed out. Is this the right? Have I got the right pit here? I don't even remember. And as I went in, came out behind Blood and Sand, he had an accident, which put me in first after the out lap, I think it was.
Yeah.
So yeah, couldn't have asked for anything better, I suppose.
Yeah, it was really just comfortable for you from that point on, wasn't it? It was never.
It might have looked that way. Lost a few stone. No, it wasn't too bad, I suppose. Obviously, Wednesday kind of got me in the swing of just driving around that track for 66 laps. So yeah, I just tried to keep it clean, which failed because I got 3 points anyway. Yeah, so it wasn't too bad.
You sound so calm and collected, and yet you're millions of fans worldwide, as Matty was saying. You know, festival, throwing parties in the street. You know, the God King himself has finally won a race, and generally it was. Yeah, like Matty said, after that first stint, we was too busy watching the battle for what we thought was going to be first, second, and third after the first round of stops to see you emerge in front of them and then just bridge the gap from there.
It really surprised me that I came out in second. But yeah, like I say, I couldn't have asked for anything better. Then I was kind of crabbing myself as well, because you guys were saying it's going to go on hard, it's going to go on hard, and I said to Chris, shall I go on hard? He was like, that's for you. I was like, I don't know what to do now. But I thought I wanted to end on the faster tyre. Didn't gamble for the safety car, so well done on everyone on that.
Yeah.
But I knew Cal would end on the faster tyre as well, so I just wanted to match that. And as he pit for his softs, I pit in that lap just so we were fighting fire with fire, and there was no him fighting his fresh softs on my worn mediums. So
yeah. Well, it was a good strategy call, and we've seen you in the past, whether in this league or others. You've had great pace at times, but I think just the consistency and the race pace part of it was that bit that you were missing. But we've seen today that has come along in a massive way. So now that you're starting to get that consistency and race pace, what does the future have in store for the God King? Is there more of this
Esports,
on the way?
I'll be there with Yano and all that. I don't know, mate. I just want to improve. Like, I just want to get better, faster, more consistent. I didn't have the best quali, but I didn't want to risk going out on the mediums again. So I thought I'll just sit here and see how things roll out. And didn't have the best start again, but I just kept my head down. Tried to keep up with, I think it was Woody in front of me. Tried to get in his DRS so I didn't lose the boys up front. And it worked out, I guess. I've brought a cup down if you want to sit, just so you know what it's like.
I was just about to touch on that. You hold the accolade at the moment between AL1 and AL2 as the only Red Bull driver to take the top step on the podium.
Well, that's it, mate. You know, someone's got to do it.
Tell you what, it ain't gonna be me.
Don't be like that. Villas might do some cooking later, I don't know. Lose
some cooking.
Know what it's like.
Well, Diggle, you got anything else to add for our podium sitters?
No, well, besides, just thank you very much for giving us such a great bloody race to commentate over the last hour and a half, 2 hours. Honestly, it was brilliant driving by all. Great battles throughout the field. Didn't see any of you guys really actually hitting anyone. You all kept it clean and just showed what pace you had. Definitely when you traded all fastest laps come the end, that was great, but just well done overall, to be fair, for all three of yourselves.
Thanks, mate. Thanks for being here.
Well done to all of our drivers today. Xerxes gets his maiden win in Wheel2Wheel racing. An exciting race today, and we're back for another one next week, and we hope to see you then. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Have a good night.
We love you, Xerxes. We do. We love you, Xerxes.